Oh my gosh, guys, can you believe it? It is May already, and it's already time for another installment of what to do this month in the Hawaiian garden. Now, hopefully you've been able to check out the past videos in this series. We've gone month by month, and in this month, the month of May, we are experiencing explosive growth in the garden. The days are getting longer and warmer, and the plants are responding by growing even quicker. Hopefully you got your seeds already started. If you haven't, you can still plant some seeds. Some heat-loving vegetables that can go in right now are tomatoes, corn, beans, and squash, cucumbers, eggplants, bell peppers. All these crops that just love the heat can be sown earlier in the month and be ready to harvest by July or August. But don't wait too late to sow these plants, because earlier you can get them sown, the better. Now you could also focus on some quicker growing annuals such as beets, radishes, kale, lettuces, collards. All these plants can grow really well this time of year still. As the summer months move on, you may need to have more shade or be in higher elevations to be able to get plants such as lettuce and kale to take well. But if you plant a lot of those plants now, you could still be able to probably get a harvest out of them, especially if you grow some of them as a microgreen and do more intense seeding. And if you're looking for local seed companies to source your seeds from, I just made a video on the top 6 seed companies that are local here in Hawaii that will be perfect for local gardeners that grow in the tropics. Now, when it comes to harvest, the bounty is starting to come on this month. A couple of my favorites really start to hit their peak this month. Mangoes and lychees. This is the time for those two crops. I especially love mangoes that grow out of Kona. They are especially tasty. And it seems like the lychee season right now is kicking into high gear. And I really love to harvest those guys when the outer skin is nice and bright red and the scales have kind of dulled down and they're not so rough. That's the right time to harvest them. And when it's ready, oh man, it's on. And of course, we always have the perennial favorites such as bananas, cassava, kalo, papaya, and coconut. All these plants are continuously popping out produce for us to be able to harvest. Those are probably some of the first plants you want to get on your homestead if you're starting a new garden. You want to get the plants that constantly pump out production. And I don't know if you knew this, but there are some great specialty crops that are ready to harvest right now. Pomegranate, there's dragon fruit, and we even have plums that are ready to harvest right now. That's right, guys, plums. In higher elevations, plums grow pretty well out here. In fact, we could grow all sorts of temperate climate crops in the higher elevations of mainly Hawaii Island and Maui. Some other fan favorites that could be ready to harvest right now are cacao and mountain apple, jackfruit, avocado, lilikoi, pineapple, canistel, durian, soursop, and many, many others. And in the veggie garden, you could be harvesting all sorts of things right now. We got lettuces, basil, cilantro, collards, kale, eggplant, tomatoes, cucumbers. You know, pretty much the only thing that might not be ready right now would be melons and squash. But other than that, expect a bountiful harvest out of your vegetable garden right now. And of course, there are always odd jobs to do in the garden. This month, the month of May, is pretty much a time for trellising. Lots of trellises start to go up because hopefully you're planting some beans, or you have something like tomatoes or cucumbers that need some trellising. And so you could have a vine layer where you also have other plants growing underneath it, which is a really cool feature about using trellises. You could save a lot of space and grow more food. The bad part of May is this is about the time of the year when we got to start going to 2 times a month mowing. The grass just seems to grow overnight. Some people will mow every week, but I hold off to every 2 weeks. If you go longer than that, the grass gets a little too hard to mow. So if you have any areas of grass, you got to keep on it, or else it's just going to get wild, and then you're going to have to come in with a weed whacker, and it takes a lot more time doing that. And also, some of your fruit trees may be exhibiting a lot of growth right now, and doing some light summer pruning can be beneficial. You can clear off some branches that may be in your way in the pathways, or any branches that may look like they are going to be weak or make a branch bend down too much. Just do some light selective pruning. We're not talking about as heavy pruning as you might do at other times. In fact, if your fruit tree is fruiting right now, you may want to wait till after it fruits. Otherwise, just a little bit of light pruning, maybe thin some flowers off the branches so that the fruit production can fill in a little better. All these little things are little odd jobs that you could be doing in the garden to ensure a better harvest and a more manageable garden throughout the year. And when it comes to pests in the garden, something about them is pretty interesting. It's kind of like the supply chain issue right now. Sometimes you'll have lumber out of stock, and other times we're gonna have problems with computer chips. Just seems like wherever you go, depending on what time of year it is, something is either in abundance or it's missing. And the same thing goes with pests. Right now, I noticed that whiteflies are increasing their production and causing more issues in my plants than I've had with slugs and aphids in the past few months. We are constantly having a pest problem, but we are cycling through which ones we're having problems with. And so with whiteflies, I am tackling them by spraying them off every day. They tend to congregate on the other side of leaves. Once in a while, I am spraying it with a soapy water solution to hopefully try and smother them. And you may have other pest problems depending where you are. You know, the tomato hornworm is a problem for some people, or we have borer beetles that are an issue for others. It depends on the crop and your location. And if you haven't already, you should go ahead and probably fence off your garden. If you are like a lot of other people out there who are constantly battling pigs right now, the only real way to deal with them is to fence off your garden. My property's been fenced and I've never had a pig problem. I leave my driveway gate open and they don't come in, but other people down the road from me, they have pigs grubbing in their yard all the time. So if you're serious about getting a food forest going, you should maybe think about fencing off a smaller area than you originally planned on. There's a lot of benefits to that where you could intensively manage a small area and not have the costs get too high. And if you want to learn more about why I think having a smaller homestead is the wiser choice, you can check out this video right here. And as I mentioned, perennials are pumping this time of year. Right now, if you planted 9 months ago, you should be reaping the harvest of some kalo, cassava, sweet potato, bananas, papayas. All these plants are ready to harvest in as little as 9 months. In addition, you could also be harvesting some perennial greens such as moringa, perennial spinach, katuk, and laupele. And if you didn't get any of those planted, the next best time to do it is right now. So go ahead and get those awesome perennials planted right now so that they'll be ready for you in 9 months. And if you're thinking about planting fruit trees right now, don't hesitate. Earlier in the month is better. As the month of May wears on, the days get drier, the sun gets hotter, and it's gonna be harder for a fruit tree to be able to take before the heat of the summer months comes on. I like to plant fruit trees in April, and my other favorite times is around September and October. That gives the fruit trees enough time to establish their roots before either the heat of the summer comes in or the low light days of the winter starts to set in. Now it's getting a little late in the season to be taking cuttings and propagating them, but if you have a good propagation chamber with an intermittent mist system, you could be getting some great softwood cuttings right now. Softwood cuttings are the new growth when the branches of the plant are still green. And you could trim those down, put them in a little sand medium, and have it under an intermittent mist system, and within a few days to a week, you could have some roots flowing out of that new cutting, ready for a new plant to plant in the garden. You can do that with katuk, perennial collards, moringa, ava, perennial spinach, laupele. All these plants are really great to propagate by cutting. And if you're thinking about air layering to propagate any plants, May would be about the last month I would think about doing that. I like to do my air layering earlier in the spring or later in the fall when it's more moist and encourages more root formation. But it's possible if you get to it early in the month that you could have some rooted air layering plants ready to go by the end of summer. And May is a great time to continue fertilizing your garden. If your plants have no fruit setting in and they're just producing leaves, go ahead and put a nice nitrogen-rich fertilizer down, such as a nitrogen-rich compost or some blood meal or fish meal. Those are great fertilizers to add to the garden. And if your fruit is setting in on your fruit trees, a good phosphorus type fertilizer would be good to add, such as bone meal. Bone meal will be really great to add when your plants are in flower or in fruit production. But my favorite fertilizer is healthy soil, and that means good, healthy compost. And if you want to know why I think healthy soil is going to be what helps your plants grow faster, you should check out this video right here. And if you have a fruit tree nursery and you started your seeds and you have your first true leaves starting to come out, don't forget to add some slow release fertilizer. That is the key to making your potted plants grow super well. Well, shoots guys, that is another month in the garden in the books. I'm sure there is plenty more to add, but I'm doing my best to get as much as I can. And hopefully each one of these videos in the month by month video series has been helping you out. If you want to check them out, you can check out this playlist right here. Until next time guys, a hui ho. Thanks for watching.